So we ain't really never had no old money. We got a whole lot of new money though.
And welcome back to the Sports Sermon. I'm Dylan Staggy here today.
I'm Dan Majors.
And I'm Jason Gallagher.
And today we are going over our next edition of the NFL season previews. This time we will be talking about the New York Jets. So last year the Jets finished 5-11 with some pretty unimpressive wins over the Browns, Niners, the Bills twice, and the Ravens. And really an underachieving year for the Jets after almost making the playoffs in 2015, dropping all the way down to that 5-11 record. Ryan Fitzpatrick was terrible at quarterback, and the Jets could never get anything going last season. But let's talk about this season. Their new depth chart, the guys that they brought in this offseason. Jason, what do you have there?
Offensively, the Jets are kind of a mess. They really have no stability at any position. You've got Josh McCown, Christian Hackenberg, Bryce Petty at the quarterback spot. McCown's pretty much a proven backup at best. Hackenberg and Petty have got no real playing time or confidence from their team. At the running backs, Matt Forte, you'd look at him as maybe the only cornerstone of the offense, but when you're on the wrong side of 30, it's hard to count on somebody like him. Bilal Powell had a few good games here and there, but really not a starting running back in the NFL. And then at the receivers, it was just announced a few days ago that Eric Decker would be released from the New York Jets. And so the receiving core looks like this: Sharon Peak, Quincy Enunwa, Robbie Anderson, and Ardarius Stewart. So really not very many big names at the receiving core. Someone I'm a fan of those, Ardarius Stewart. And I mean, after looking at the receiving core, there's a pretty good chance Stewart could be the number one by the end of the year.
Yeah, Stewart, I like him, but not as a number one wide receiver in the NFL by any stretch. And at the tight end position, they're looking at fifth-round pick Tony Leggett and Austin Seferian-Jenkins, who they signed this offseason. The offensive line isn't really looking too good either. So on the offensive side of the ball, the Jets are just really going to be struggling this season. The defense a little bit better, though. The defensive line is very nice. Leonard Williams, Muhammad Wilkerson, and Sheldon Richardson all there. A couple of nice linebackers, Demario Davis, who they just traded for, a little bit of a reunion there, and Darren Lee. But besides that, no real depth at the linebacker position for the Jets. The cornerbacks are not really great at all. Buster Screen, Shamarko Thomas, and Morris Claiborne really going to have a tough time shutting down the Patriots in their division with those great weapons there. And at safety, they've got Jamal Adams, who they drafted this year, but not really much else going. So the Jets' depth chart this season, not really looking too good. Dan, what do you have in special teams?
Yeah, well, the Jets had a lot of problems with special teams last year, and Bulls is planning on having a lot more guys who just do special teams. He thinks that was the main problem. And they picked up Chandler Catanzaro this year, and they also have a second-year punter in Lachlan Edwards, and Jalen Marshall will be returning punts and kicks. So maybe they can improve in at least one category this year.
Yeah, the Jets not really looking too bright. Let's move on to the schedule this year. We're going to go game by game, predicting every single win and loss and every week for the Jets this year. Dan, what do you have?
In week one, I've got them losing to the Bills. Yeah, those are two of the worst teams in the league, so it's going to be close, but I got the Bills winning it.
Yeah, I also have the Bills taking the win in week one, a home game for Buffalo, and they get the early win versus the Jets.
Yeah, consensus 3 losses here for the Jets in week one.
And week two, they travel to Oakland to play the Raiders. The Raiders, a great team this season, are going to be in the playoffs most likely again unless some crazy injury happens. A loss again for the Jets in week two.
Yeah, definitely no upset here.
Yeah, there's not really a debate. The Raiders are one of the best teams in football, and the Jets are the worst team in football. Easy win for the Raiders.
And the Dolphins travel to the Jets in week three. The Dolphins, a pretty solid team this season. I have another loss for the Jets in Week 3.
I do too.
0-3.
In Week 4, the Jaguars travel to New York and play the Jets. The Jags looking good on paper this year, but they had the same thing last year. We'll see if it works out this year, but still a better team than the Jets. They get the win.
I've got more faith in the Jags than most people. It's just why I have them winning. And the Jets now 0-4.
0-4.
All right. A game that the Jets now have a chance to win, traveling to Cleveland to play the Browns. I still have a loss, so I think the Browns will be a better team than the Jets this season, even though they were obviously terrible last season. I have another loss in Week 5 for the Jets.
I have a win for the Jets finally. They beat the Browns. I think the Browns still have too much instability on the offensive end to make some noise. Defensively, they're looking really well. They're looking really good with all the offseason moves, but offensively, they still got some work to do, and the Jets can squeak out a game.
I think the Browns are the better team this year, and I've got Browns over Jets.
All right, Week 6, home against the Patriots. I mean, not even a contest here. The Patriots might be the best team ever, and the Jets might be one of the worst. Patriots get the win easily.
Yep.
All right. Week 7, the Jets travel to play the Dolphins. Dolphins, again, an average team this year. The Jets, much below average team. Dolphins win again.
Yes, sir.
Yep. 1 and a lot of losses.
Yep, 0-7 for both me and Dan. Jason has 1-6 right now. Week 8 versus the Falcons at home. Falcons slip up, traveling to the Jets. Anybody?
No.
No.
Same here. 0-8 for the Jets. Week 9, home versus the Bills.
No.
I've got to win.
I do too, I think. Home game versus the Bills. The Jets swept them last season. So
Sleeping on Tyrod. Tyrod's going to throw for 300 plus that game, I'm telling you.
I think he might. Obviously, the Jets' defense, not anything too great, but I still think the Jets can pull out at least one victory this year in Week 9. So we all have 1-8 right now. Week 10, they travel to Tampa Bay to play the Bucks. Anybody got a win there?
Jameis is too good for the Jets.
That's right.
Yep, same here. 1-9, and the Jets have a bye in Week 11. So let's go to Week 12 versus the Panthers at home. The Jets win that one, or the Jets lose that one, excuse me. Panthers travel to New York and get the win. The Panthers are, I think, going to have a rebound year this year.
I think, the Panthers will rebound, but hey, the Jets didn't lose in the bye week. That's a positive.
There you go.
All right, Kansas City now in Week 13. Again, I don't think any contest. Kansas City going to be have another solid year this year and beat the Jets.
Yeah, I think Kansas City will be 9-7 and squeak in the playoffs as a wild card.
Yep, Chiefs.
All right, then they travel to Denver to play the Broncos.
I can see them staying close, but not a win.
Yeah, I think the Broncos are going to have an underachieving year, but I think the same way, a loss for the Jets again.
Yep, loss.
Week 15, they travel to New Orleans in the Superdome to play the Saints. Wins there, anybody?
Nope.
No, I think the Saints are going to struggle, but not enough to lose to the lowly Jets.
All right, Week 16, we all have 1-13 for the Jets right now. So they go to the Chargers, or they're home for the Chargers in Week 16. Any chance that the Jets can pull off an upset at home?
I have the Jets pulling off the upset. Cross-country win for the the Chargers have to have a cross-country trip. Tough way to go, changing 2 time zones. So I like the Jets, shocking the Chargers. I think the Chargers will be right on the cusp of the playoffs, and that will be the game that decides them as a loss.
I think the Chargers will be on the cusp of the playoffs too, but I think that motivates them to play well. I think the Jets are just totally kind of checked out by this point of the season. Obviously not going to have a good record at this point, and I see the Chargers winning this one.
Yeah, I'm with Dylan on this one.
All right, in Week 17 at New England, any chance the Patriots rest their starters and the Jets get a win?
I think it'll be close, but not a win.
Yeah, I'm not going for the greatest upset of all time.
Yeah. I think even the backups of the Patriots would easily outmatch the Jets. So
Shots at the Jets. The backups?
yeah,
No. No backups would be anyone's starters in the NFL or NBA or MLB.
but I mean they have the better coaching and at least a little something to play for. I mean the Jets by this season, like I said with the Chargers, have to be
They have
totally
their pride to
checked
play
out.
for. If their 22 bench players come in and start to beat them, I would hope that the starters can turn it on a little bit. I don't know. I don't see if it was a truly backups versus starters, the Patriots would not win in my opinion.
All right, so 1-15 for me and Dan. For the Jets this year, Jason has 2-14, and obviously not going to be a great season for the Jets this year. Let's move on to a headline for the Jets going into 2017. Jason, what do you have?
Find a quarterback and just win a game. Those are kind of their two focuses. Is Hackenberg the guy? Is Petty the guy? If not, just win a game.
I've got number 1 pick, and they will get the number 1 pick, obviously, if they go 1-15, most likely. And I think they pick up one of the great quarterbacks in this next draft, and either Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, or Josh Allen. And we'll see how those guys are this year throughout college football. But, yeah, I've got number 1 pick. Will they get somebody good?
All right, my headline is going to be Trust the Process. We talked about this yesterday with the 76ers, but I think the Jets are going to have to take a similar approach to their franchise right now, they're going to have to start going through a rebuild after last season's terrible year after having such high hopes, and now this year they've already started to tank. I mean, David Harris getting released, Eric Decker getting released, trading away Calvin Pryor. Process, tank for a few years, and try and get some good pieces to help build this roster back to playoff contention.
Yeah, they lost Brandon Marshall to free agency, Ryan Fitzpatrick to free agency, Geno Smith to free agency, and so that's the reason the quarterback room is very depleted and why the Jets could just possibly be one of the worst teams ever in NFL history.
And speaking of the worst teams ever, for our top 5 today, we are going to rank the top 5 worst teams in NFL history. So, number 5, Dan, who do you have?
I've got the 1980 New Orleans Saints. They went 1-15, and really their only good player was Archie Manning. So
I have got the 2016 Browns. They had decent defense, but really no offensive game to show for it. Crowell showed flashes. Cody Kessler was all right, but they played so many different quarterbacks and really had a terrible season.
Yeah, I also have the 2016 Browns. One of the reasons I didn't put the Saints, though, like Dan did, is because they did have good quarterback play from Archie Manning, something that the 2016 Browns did not. Let's move on to number 4. Dan, who do you have?
I got the 2009 St. Louis Rams. They went 1-15. Had a terrible defense and had a solid Steven Jackson in his prime. So
I got the 1960 Dallas Cowboys. They went 0-11-1, did not win a game, and it was their first year out of the expansion draft.
I'm going to go with the 91 Indianapolis Colts, led by Jeff George, going 1-15 and only averaging 14 points a game.
yeah, I've got at number 3. I've got the 91 Colts, and they set the record for the fewest points in the season that year. So
At my number 3, I have the 1976 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They were an expansion team again, 0-14, and averaged like under 9 or 8 points a game that year. So terrible season for the Bucs.
For my number 3, I'm going to go with the 2006 Raiders. Went 2-14. Andrew Walter and Aaron Brooks threw for 6 touchdowns and 21 interceptions. I don't know how much worse you can get. I think the basketball Aaron Brooks could have thrown for better numbers than that. And also, this season led them to get Jamarcus Russell, making it one of the worst seasons ever.
Hey, we're back now, all right? We're back.
All right, number 2, Dan, who do you have?
I've got the 76 Bucks debut season and average less than 9 points a game. So
I have the 1982 Baltimore Colts. They went 0-8-1, and they was during the players' strike. And yeah, terrible team.
I'll give them a little bit of a break because only 9 games in this season, and I'll also say the 76 Bucks 0-14, and like Dan said, under 9 points a game. Not sure how much worse you can get than that.
yeah, for number 1, I've got 2008 Lions. Terrible team, had a terrible defense, just awful.
I think it's pretty consensus there. The only team to go winless with the new 16 games. And yeah, it just was never bright for the city of Detroit that year with Dan Orlovsky as the backup, and yeah, really just a bad team that year for Detroit.
Yeah, I'm also going to go with the 2008 Lions. I think their whole season was summed up by the one play. I still remember on Thanksgiving, they played the Packers, and I don't even remember who was quarterback that day because they struggled, obviously, with the quarterback position. But whoever it was ran out of the back of the end zone for a safety. Really the play that really summed up their whole season, making it the worst in NFL history.
Yeah, definitely. I remember that play too. It was not a good day. So, yeah, the Lions really definitely one of the worst teams in the NFL. Obviously, we all have them as the worst team in the NFL. Do you think we'll see a worse team?
At least, I don't know, not for a while, but I think possibly soon, maybe in the next 10 years, because now with the NBA kind of going to the tanking, I think some NFL teams will follow suit a little bit more and try to create some bad teams for some good draft picks.
Yeah, I'm with Dylan. I think the teams will start to tank and start to get good picks, and so definitely could see another team go 0-16.
All right, so that's going to end our episode.
Yeah, so coming up on the upcoming days, we've got the finals, Game 4 recap, as well as our What's Next preview. We've just finished the AFC East, and we have finished the Atlantic Division, if I'm not mistaken. So we will be taking on the Pacific Division, starting with possibly the 2017 NBA champion Golden State Warriors. And we will be doing what?
I don't think we'll go with the Warriors yet. I mean, their season won't be over by then.
All right, we'll go with the Los Angeles Clippers then, because their season's been over since the first round. And we will do the Los Angeles Clippers in the Pacific Division, and we will start the and we've already started the AFC North, so we will continue with that and do the Pittsburgh Steelers. So that is what's coming up in this week.
All right, thank you for listening to our podcast today, going over the Jets season preview. A pretty bad one. But if you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. And if you want to see the rest of our NFL season previews coming throughout this summer, please subscribe to our channel and follow us on Twitter at The Sports Sermon to see every time we post a new video or a new article, and we'll get you an alert there. So that's going to end our episode for the New York Jets season preview. Thank you for listening, and we will see you tomorrow.